The series is officially back to a level playing field after two heartbreaking one-point losses that threatened to derail the momentum of a 53-win season. The New York Knicks went into State Farm Arena on Saturday and delivered a defensive masterclass. A dominant 16-point victory and holding the Hawks to only 98 points in Game 4 has tied the series at 2 games apiece. And as we head back to Madison Square Garden for a pivotal Game 5, the narrative has shifted. We are no longer talking about a team in an architectural crisis. Instead, we are looking at the evolution of an identity. The even-keeled reality is that the Knicks finally found the balance that we have been calling for since the playoffs began. Today, we're breaking down the historic triple-double from Karl-Anthony Towns, the Knicks taking CJ McCollum out of the game, and why the Knicks finally discovered the championship blueprint that can carry them beyond the first round. So the energy entering Game 4 was undeniably tense. Dropping Game 3 by a single point after a late-game surge was a test of this team's maturity. Many questioned if the pressure of the third seed was becoming too heavy for a group that was still trying to figure out its postseason hierarchy. But from the opening tip on Saturday, the Knicks looked like the powerhouse that we saw throughout the regular season at times. They took control midway through the first quarter and never looked back, leading by as much as 24 points. This was not a game decided by hero ball or individual brilliance in isolation. This was a clinical, wire-to-wire dismantling of the Atlanta Hawks. The Knicks held a 68-44 advantage at halftime, a margin that effectively sucked the life out of the Atlanta crowd. For 36 minutes, New York played with the kind of defensive connectivity and offensive unselfishness that was missing in the previous 2 losses. It was a reminder that when this team executes the defensive standard, they are the most dangerous unit in the Eastern Conference by far. Now, the defining story of Game 4 was the performance of Karl-Anthony Towns. We have spent much of this series discussing the Cat enigma and his lack of involvement in the fourth quarter. In Game 4, Towns did not just participate, he orchestrated. He finished with 20 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, marking his first career triple-double. That being in the postseason, but the statistics only tell part of the story. The way those 10 assists were generated is the real blueprint for success. Rather than just being a floor spacer or a post-up threat, Cat acted as the high post hub for the entire game. He was making the extra pass and finding OG Anunoby many times on backdoor cuts and hitting Jalen Brunson for open looks in the flow of the offense. By becoming a primary facilitator, Towns neutralized the Hawks' defensive strategy of doubling Jalen Brunson. When Cat is making the plays from the top of the key, the defense is forced to stay home on shooters, which opens up the entire floor. This shift from scorer to facilitator solved the architectural flaw that we critiqued after Game 2. It proved that Towns does not need 15 fourth-quarter shots to be the most impactful player on the court. His gravity is his greatest weapon, and on Saturday, he used it to perfection. While the Knicks' offense was fluid, the defensive adjustments made by Mike Brown were the silent killers of the Hawks' momentum. CJ McCollum had been the primary engine for Atlanta through the first 3 games, hitting 9 three-pointers and consistently punishing the Knicks' help defense. In Game 4, the Knicks held McCollum scoreless from beyond the arc. Think about the level of discipline that's required to take an elite shooter like him from 9 triples over 3 games to 0 in a must-win road game. The adjustment was simple but physically demanding. Mike Brown leaned on OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges to stay attached to McCollum's hip for 48 minutes. There was no overhelping, there was no gambling in the passing lanes, it was straight up individual accountability. By taking away the 3-point line, the Knicks forced McCollum into the mid-range where Mitchell Robinson was waiting to contest everything. This forced the rest of the Hawks roster to manufacture points in a half-court set, which is not their strength. Holding a high-octane offense like Atlanta's to 98 points on their home floor is the ultimate validation of the Knicks' defensive identity. Now, we cannot overlook the impact of OG Anunoby in this series. In Game 4, he provided a team-high 22 points and 10 rebounds, but more importantly, he played 40 minutes of high-intensity basketball. Anunoby is the bridge that connects the Knicks' offensive and defensive philosophies. When the game slows down, he is the one hitting the corner triples to break a scoring drought. Or when the defense lapses, he is the one recovering to block a shot or deflect a pass. In Game 4, Anunoby was a plus 19. His presence allows Jalen Brunson to play with less pressure on the perimeter. Brunson finished with a quiet 19 points, and in any other game that might have been a concern. But because OG and Cat were so productive, Brunson was able to manage the game rather than carry it. This is the version of the Knicks that can win a championship. It is a team where the burden is shared, the defense is suffocating, and the stars trust the system more than they trust their own isolation ability. And Mitchell Robinson's role in Game 4 was focused and efficient. He logged 15 minutes only, providing 6 points and 8 rebounds, including 5 massive offensive boards. While his minutes were lower than usual due to the success of the small ball lineups featuring Cat at the 5, his impact on the glass remains a constant threat. The bench units led by Deuce McBride and Jordan Clarkson finally found their rhythm as well. McBride hit 3 triples and finished with 11 points, providing the scoring punch that the second unit desperately needed. The mobility of the bench is what allowed the starters to enter the fourth quarter with fresh legs. For the first time in the series, Mike Brown staggered the rotations effectively, ensuring that at least one of the primary scorers was on the floor at all times. This prevented the scoring droughts that cost the Knicks Game 2 and Game 3. It was a subtle coaching adjustment that had a massive impact on the final score. Now the series returns to New York for a best-of-3 sprint to the finish. The even-keeled perspective is that the Knicks have reclaimed the momentum, but the job is far from over. Game 5 at the Garden will be the most high-pressure environment that this roster has faced. The Hawks have proven that they can win on the road, and they will likely attempt to speed up the tempo to counter the Knicks' half-court dominance. The key to Game 5 is maintaining the unselfishness that we saw in Atlanta. If Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns can continue to coexist as dual facilitators, the Hawks' defense will have no answer. The Knicks have discovered the blueprint to winning these games: move the ball, anchor the paint, and stay attached to the perimeter shooters, and most importantly, play it through Cat. If they execute that standard for another 48 minutes tomorrow night, they will be one step closer to the second round. Now, a 2-2 series is a test of character. The Knicks passed that test in Game 4 by refusing to panic and returning to the principles that earned them 53 wins in the regular season. The identity crisis has been solved and the architecture is finally stable. This team is no longer just a Jalen Brunson show. It is a balanced defensive powerhouse led by a historic triple-double threat in Karl-Anthony Towns, who would have thought, and an elite wing core in OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. I'm personally staying even-keeled. The blowout in Atlanta was impressive, but playoff series are defined by consistency. Can you do it again a second time in a row? Let me know in the comments, do you think Cat's move to facilitator is the permanent solution for the offense? I do think so. And who is your defensive MVP of the series so far? I'll be in the comments all day talking hoops as we prepare for Game 5 at the Garden tomorrow. It's been KNYT here, and I'll see you guys in the next one.